Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you're ready to learn a little bit about beings tonight because I have a lot to share with you. We're going to be learning how beings invade our space, and then I'm also going to show you some techniques on what to do about that. Tonight's class is less of a class on energy running. It's not really a meditation class. It's going to be more of an informational class. So I thought I'd just tell you that up front. But I will be teaching you some techniques on how to clear beings. So you will get that information tonight. So welcome. I wanted to start out tonight by talking about why a being would even want to get into your little old space in the first place. Well, you have something very valuable, and that is called a body. Bodies are rare, and there are billions and billions and billions of beings. There are not that many bodies to go around for the beings. We also have a really special planet here on Earth, a very desirable space. And so there are always going to be beings vying for bodies. So you will find in your lifetime that there may be periods where you get gently shoved out of your body, forcefully shoved out, or you might invite a being in. There are different ways that the beings can come in your space. And what they do actually is they enter through an energy vibration. And so once that being comes in on a particular energy vibration, they want to maintain that energy vibration in your body, because if you change that energy vibration too much, one way or the other, the being's not going to be able to stay in there. So let's say a being comes in at an energy vibration here, you try to raise your energy a little bit, get it a little higher. Oftentimes this being will get angry, and you'll experience that oftentimes like in a physical way when you're trying to move that being out. What you have to do is raise your energy high enough where the being just can't stay in your body and they leave. So that actually is a psychic, not a psychic trick, but it's actually a spiritual space of finding your crown chakra, finding your neutrality, and learning how to move the being out, which we're going to do in just a minute. A lot of times a being in your space doesn't know that they're there. They're unconscious, and they might need a hello in order to take their next step and move on. And I find that a lot of times that's really what a being wants, is a hello. And what I mean by a hello is a spiritual one-to-one communication. So if you have a being that is lodged in your energetic body or attached to you and hanging out in your aura, and that being doesn't have a lot of intelligence, or it's kind of a low vibration, it may not really have enough awareness to recognize that it's stuck in your space. And you either need to say hello to that being from a place of neutrality, or get somebody who knows how to say hello to that being to move that being out. So the vibration that a being comes in on is going to be the vibration that they try to maintain in the body. If you resist a being, then you will probably remain stuck in that energy vibration. So that's another way that a being gets stuck in your space, is if you resist them. Now, when I talk about finding your neutrality for a being, that's easy for me to say, but actually doing it is something else. So only a small percentage of beings actually don't move when you try to move them out. And those oftentimes are low-level beings that we're going to talk about tonight, called destroy beings. And so sometimes you need, again, a hello to get that being out. We're going to start off by doing a simple exercise so that you can learn the basic energy tools that you're going to be needing to clear beings, and it's called a grounding cord. So before we get into this any deeper, I'm going to have you close your eyes and get comfortable in the chair that you're sitting in. And I want you to place your feet flat on the ground, hips distance apart. And you can take a couple of big breaths in Inhale and exhale. Let your body relax. And bring your point of attention to a point behind your eyes. We call it the center of your head. And with your attention inside the center of your head, I want you to also think about the base of your spine, where you have a spinning energy center called your first chakra. And you're going to use that point at the base of your spine to create an image of a line of energy, just a simple rope to start with. And you can visualize tying that rope around the base of your spine. And then you're going to let that rope go all the way down through your chair, through the floor of the room that you're in, through the ground, the dirt, way deep, deep down into the very center of the planet. And then visualize a way to anchor that line of energy in so that you're actually tying yourself at the base of your spine to the center of the planet. Go ahead and do that right now. Once that grounding cord is attached to the center of the planet, you're going to automatically feel gravity gently working with you and pulling your energetic body to hold it into your physical body. Now, this line of energy can be used to release energy. You can do that by putting a waterfall around it, or I like to visualize mine as a tube so that I can see energy flowing down the inside of it. And the reason you want energy to be able to release down this tube is so that we can start to release foreign energy. And that would be any energy that is not yours. You can start by releasing the regular stress of the day. Just your regular garden variety stress is an energy that we all understand. And whether you're holding it in your neck or your back or your shoulders or your stomach, go ahead and say hello to that energy right now and see if you can't let that energy release into the grounding cord you created. Good, good. And as you release that energy, make sure you let it go all the way down to the center of the planet. Good. Now, how about let's look around our spaces and look for the energy of isolation. There's a lot of isolation because of COVID. And I want you to see if you can locate where you're holding that energy, and you can start to release it and let that energy go down your grounding cord. Good. The next energy I want you to say hello to would be any fear that's stimulated in your space, because you're going to be learning about beings, also known as entities. And it's possible you might have some hesitation or some fear about it based on past information or life experience that you didn't understand. So go ahead and say hello to any fear that you're experiencing right now, and I would send that down your grounding cord. All right. Now, the next energy for you to release would be expectations. Whatever your expectations are of tonight's class, I'd like you to just toss them out the window, throw them down your grounding cord, and release them. And also, let's go ahead and release some responsibility energy so that you can enjoy yourself for the next hour. Try to notice where you're holding responsibility energy. You might be holding that in your stomach. You might be holding it in your jaws. Might be holding it in your heart chakra. Go ahead and release wherever you feel a tightness or you feel that energy. All right. Good job. Now we're going to use the tool of a golden sun. I want you to create a big, giant gold sun above your head, as full as you can imagine, and you can feel the warmth radiating down on your head. And that gold sun is actually filled with your life force energy. I want you to bring that gold energy right in through the top of your head and start to fill up every cell of your body, all the way down your legs, through your ankles, your feet. Get that gold all the way into your baby toes. And create another gold sun. And this time I want you to call your energy back from the week. Wherever you've been hanging out, whatever you've been doing, you've probably left some of your energy there. So I'd like you to call it back and bring it into a gold sun and fill yourself in again. These three tools, grounding, being in the center of your head, and filling in with a gold sun, are three tools that you can always use to clear a being. It's very important to be in the center of your head where you have what's called your neutrality, because in the center of your head, you have a chakra called your sixth chakra. And in this chakra, you have your clairvoyant information, your ability to see energy, so you can see beings. And you also have an ability in there called neutrality, so that when you go into the center of your head, you're able to witness energy neutrally. It's a wonderful ability, and it's really just mechanics of learning how to get into the center of your head and stay there. So those are three great tools for releasing beings. And there are so many different kinds of beings. I thought I'd break it into some categories so that we could talk about certain ones. There's no way I can cover everything tonight in just an hour, but I thought I'd lay a little groundwork for you so that you could get an idea of what some variety of beings and what happens with them. So I'm going to be trying to cover beings that invade your body, food beings, religious beings, alien beings, drug and alcohol beings, destroy beings, family control beings, visitations, and last but never least, sex beings. So if that didn't light you up, I don't know what will. So you want to be using your grounding cord and releasing energy while we go through this. Whether you stay in trance or not is really up to you. If you want to watch with your eyes open, that's fine. If you want to stay in trance and just blow roses, if you know how to blow roses and continue grounding, that's fine too. All right. Well, I'm going to start with beings that invade your body. And at the end of this class, you're either going to think I'm completely nuts, or you're going to recognize that you have a match with me and that you've had a being invade your space before. I'm going to talk about beings that invade your body and why a being would invade it. Again, they're looking for a body. And the reason they want bodies is because that's how a being evolves. If you don't have a body, you can't really change and evolve as a being. That's the game. And that's why a body is so important. So that's why beings will come and crash into you sometimes and try to get into your body, and why they try to talk you into letting them come into your body, why they make agreements with you. A lot of times, if you're invaded by a being, there's a vulnerability that you had that allowed that being to come in. For instance, you might have been scared, been in a fear picture, like I was talking about a little bit earlier. That's why I wanted you to clear your fear pictures. You could also be out of your body, and you could have your energetic body be out of your physical body to the point where you're not really able to oversee your body. And why might you be out of your body? There are a lot of reasons. You might be out of your body because your body is exhausted. You might be out of your body because your body is in pain. There are many, many different reasons. You might be out of your body because you've been drinking. And by exiting your body, that makes it really easy for a being to come into the body and start to take over. All right. The other reasons you might have a being is that you've made an agreement with a being at one point or another. And when I'm talking about agreements, I'm not talking necessarily about agreements just from this lifetime. Many, many, many of the beings that you'll encounter in a lifetime are beings that you've known from long ago, that you made agreements with, and that you have long forgotten what those agreements are. And that being has come around to remind you of what that agreement is. So a lot of times we find ourselves in experiences that we can't really understand, but if we would look at our original agreement with that being, it will help to understand why and how that being got in our space. The other thing that keeps a being in your space is your resistance to a being. So if you go into fear, once a being has come into your space, resistance acts like glue. It's like super glue. So if you're in a space of, oh my gosh, there's a being in me, guess what? That being has you. They have you in a fear picture, and they're going to keep you in that fear picture as long as they can. That is why, again, I'm going to remind you of the importance of your grounding cord and your ability to get into the center of your head, because those are two tools that you really are going to use once a being invades you. First thing you're going to do is put down your grounding cord and start to ground your energetic body back into your physical body. And then the next step is to come right into the center of your head so that you have that neutrality to move the being out. All right, I'm going to give you an example of a being that invades your body. When I was in Las Vegas, I had a house and I was having my shower redone, and they were putting in these beautiful new glass doors. And so the team from the glass place came, and 3 guys showed up to do the work. Now, I lived alone at this time, and I didn't know this company. I just got them out of the yellow pages. And so these 3 guys came into my house. Well, one of the 3 clearly was not well, and it looked to me like he was a drug addict. And at the time, I didn't really have my certainty to say anything. It made me extremely uncomfortable that he was in my house. And I left them so that I wasn't around them at all. And I just was in the frame of mind like, oh, I just hope they do their job and they get out of here. So, okay, they do their job, they get out of there. The shower's gorgeous. Okay, the next morning, I go to take a shower, and I'm in the shower, and all of a sudden, I feel my knees buckling from under me, and I feel an invasion coming in. And I put my hands on the glass door, to try to break my fall, But as it was happening, I went above my body and I could see I got kicked out of my body by a being. And once I hit the floor of the shower, I was able to kind of find my space and ground. And after I got out of the shower and kind of gathered my wits about me, I thought about it and I was like, that had to have been from that guy. That because those were the only people that had been in my bedroom and my bathroom. And so I knew it had to be the being from the guy who was the drug addict. So a week goes by and my girlfriend comes to town to stay with me for a couple of days, and we go off to Costco, and we come back 30 minutes later and my house has been robbed of every valuable that I have. And guess who did it? That being, that person. And the moral to this story is that I had a warning. And I've actually been robbed twice, and both times I've actually seen ahead of time at least a telltale sign. And I'm getting wiser now, recognizing the signs, but you have to be very careful and be watching what pictures are around your house all the time, because they can change and they can be clues as to somebody casing your house. So anyway, that is my story of being invaded in Las Vegas by a being. And I have another example too of being invaded. I got a phone call one day when I was at home, and I answered the phone and I heard come out of my mouth, "Karen's not here." And I was like, I couldn't say anything else. My mouth wouldn't work the way I wanted it to work. And what I found was I was up above my body and another being had come in my body. Well, the funny thing is that the person who called was calling for a reading from me. And here I was saying, "Karen's not home." So after I got off the phone with her, I took her name down and I said I'd have Karen call her. And I was so embarrassed after this. And I bring this up because I think that a lot of people don't talk about being invaded by beings because it's embarrassing. What's embarrassing is what's called our transmediumship, our ability to exit and come back into the body. And this is an ability on top of your head in what's called your crown chakra, your seventh chakra. You have information in that chakra on how to exit and then come back into your body. It's called transmediumship, and everybody has it. Some people are really good at it. I happen to be really good at it. Some of you may recognize the match that I'm talking about, where you may be also a really good transmedium and have that ability to exit and come back into your body very freely. That creates a lot of room, let's say, for other entities to come in if you're not watching over your space. So that phone call that I made, the funny thing about that is that, of course, the woman called back because she wanted a reading from me. And I tried to change my voice. So ridiculous because I was embarrassed. And so I tried to answer the phone because I saw whose call was coming in under a different voice, and she tried to book a reading with me, and we booked it. And the funny thing is that she wound up canceling it. And I think that she never really wanted a reading with me. I think her place was actually a lesson for me learning about my transmediumship. So that is a good story on me. All right. Transmedium energy. You probably all heard me talk about transmedium energy. And what that is, I like to call it being residue. It's the energy that beings leave when they pass in and out of your space. You can find that energy. I often see it as a white energy, but you might see it as any kind of color. Don't get stuck on it being white just because I said that. But you can find transmedium energy in your spiritual body, and you can find it a lot of times on top of your head, beings that try to come in and I'll say dominate you in your crown chakra, and they might leave energy. And another place that this transmedium energy gets left a lot of times is on your backside. You have channels that are for, we call them transmedium channels, and they're actually places where you can channel beings if you want. I'm going to now show you a way to clear the energy off of these 2 points at the back of your neck, because the energy from beings that pass through your aura on a daily basis, that's right, we have many, many beings that pass through us on a daily basis. Sometimes we feel them, sometimes we don't. If you've been doing energy work for a long time, then you probably have whittled away the beings and you don't have that many passing through you. But when you're not aware, or you don't have the practice down of grounding yourself and releasing the energy of beings and clearing your pain, then those beings can come in and they'll leave that residue. So behind you, and I'm going to turn around and show you at the back of your head, like where the back of your skull is, back here, you have 2 bumps. And I want you to take your 2 fingers and place them on the bumps. I'm sure that there's a physiological word for that place, but it's at the base of your skull. Now you feel those 2 bumps there. Those are a place where energy builds up. And how we're going to clear that is I'm going to have you close your eyes and bring your awareness to the center of your head. I want you to say hello to your grounding cord again, because it's important that you're grounded. And with your attention right in the center of your head, I want you to focus on the point that you just touched on the back right side of your head. You're going to be drawing 2 lines of energy from that point. One of those lines of energy is going to go to the back upper right corner of the room that you're sitting in. Go ahead and draw a line from the back of your head to the upper back right corner of the room. Draw a second line from that same point to the back right lower corner of the room. Good. Good. I can see you all did that. Now you're going to place a rose in each of those corners to anchor those lines. And you're going to ground the roses to the center of the planet. Now you might right away start to feel the energy draining off of that. What that does is it starts to pull that transmedium energy out into the corner of the room where you can release it through the rose. We're going to do the same thing on the left side of the back of the head. Draw a line of energy to the back upper left corner of the room now. And draw another line from the back of your left head, the back left side of your skull to the back lower left corner of the room. Put roses in those corners and ground the roses to the center of the planet and bring those lines of energy into the roses. Say hello to your grounding cord on you, and I want you to also say hello to those 4 roses and allow yourself a few moments to feel them grounding that transmedium energy out of your channels. lot of times when I see transmedium energy, it creates unconsciousness. It's energy that doesn't really have much of a value other than it's the residue of beings. And so when you have transmedium energy in your space, it can make you confused, and it can make you feel like you have cotton head. Go ahead and keep grounding this energy. And go ahead and create a great big gold sun above your head. And when you bring this gold sun in, I really want you to bring it into those back 2 points, fill them up with gold. And you can let the excess gold run into the lines going into the corners of the room. All right, when you're all filled up, you can open your eyes and come on out of trance. Good job. We're going to move right along to food beings and food beings. Food beings will get in your space, and food beings prefer a special diet. And it's not really about the food, it's the vibration which that being came in on. And I'm going to use sugar as an example. A being can come in on the vibration of sugar, and it could be a being that vibrates right at that same kind of buzzy energy. And what they'll do is they need to keep that vibration in your body. So they will start selectively eating certain foods to keep that vibration in your body. So the being itself doesn't necessarily, well, sometimes they do, actually. Sugar beings do want sugar, but it's also doing that because it has you held in a pain picture. And so clearing a being in your food space oftentimes means finding the pain picture that the being is attached to, or the agreement that you made with that being. Because remember, that's one of the ways you can bring a being into your space, is by making an agreement, perhaps one that you forgot about. So then you have to go back and find your agreement with that being to clear it. For instance, let's say the pain picture is I'm unlovable, and the sugar creates, or the sweetness from the sugar relieves that pain, but only temporarily. Because what happens is that if you have a food being in your space, they're going to keep eating that food. Let's say it's a sugar being, you're going to start eating a lot of sugar, a lot of carbs, and guess what? Your body's going to start changing. And I have another story about that. When I taught in Redondo Beach, I had my clairvoyant program in Redondo Beach. Across the street was the yellow vase. And according to me, I think they make the best chocolate chip cookies in the entire world. And so every day I could feast on 2 chocolate chip cookies every day just by walking across the street. And after I put on quite a few pounds, I had to look at that. It was really a being in my space. And I went over there one day and they'd run out of cookies. And I got really mad. And it really surprised me, like how angry I got. And so I had to take a look that it was a being that was getting me to eat those cookies. So with the help of one of my fellow teachers, I had her help me take that being out. And I wound up having to give up my chocolate chip cookie habit, which really bummed me out. But if you ever want a really, really good chocolate chip cookie, go to the yellow vase. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a look right now at your own space to see if maybe you have a being in your food space. And I'm just going to show you a real simple way to move that being out. All right. So go ahead and close your eyes again. Bring your awareness right into the center of your head. And you're going to be visualizing out in front of you on an imaginary movie screen. We're going to create a clear bubble out on the movie screen. And you're going to have the thought or the postulate that as you create this clear bubble, it represents your food space. And I would put a good grounding cord underneath your food space. A tube is nice, so you can watch the energy go down. And as you postulate that that is your food space, you might notice some energy lighting up in that bubble. And that's fine. I want you to ground that bubble. But I also want you to look to see if you see anything that looks like a mass of energy, either in the bubble, off to the side of the bubble. Sometimes you might see a mass of energy with a very thin line going to the bubble. That would be a being with a cord going to your food space. You might just see a blob of dark energy. That can be a being in your food space as well. So what we're going to do is a very simple exercise to remove a being from your food space. First off, if you do see a line of energy going to a blob, we're going to remove the line of energy first. And you can imagine taking your thumb and your forefinger and kind of back twisting that line of energy. This is kind of like undoing a rope. You know, you're going to back twist it and gently pull it out. Good. Now, where the end of that rope was is what's called a pain picture. So it's a picture that the being got in on. And what you're going to do is find that dot. It's a dot of energy. You might see it as a color. Could be black, could be blue, could be any color. But I want you to look for a colored dot. I'm going to take that dot out of the bubble. Or you can send that dot down the grounding cord. That's another way you can get rid of that dot. Is to just say hello to it, send it down the grounding cord. All right. Good. What we're doing is we're getting rid of the glue that holds that being to you. All right. Now that you've gotten rid of the picture, we need to fill in the hole that the cord created. So we're going to fill that in with some gold energy. You could imagine a big ball of gold energy, and you're going to start on the inside of the aura and move that gold ball of energy to the outside so it seals up that hole. Good. Now you've repaired your aura. What we're going to do now is give the being a next step healing so that the being can take its next step. And how we're going to do that is find that blob of energy on your screen and create a gold grounding cord for that being and ground that being to the center of the planet. Now you might notice that you have to be in the center of your head in order to do this because that's where your neutrality is. If you're resisting moving the being out, that means you're not in the center of your head, and you need to try to move your energy back up to the center of your head. The next thing that we're going to do is create a line of energy. It needs to be a gold line of energy from the top of that blob of energy. You want to try to guesstimate where that being's crown chakra is, top of its awareness. And you're going to create a gold line of energy from that crown chakra of that being up to a gold sun. And that sun represents the energy of Supreme Being Divinity. And you're going to ask Divinity to give this being a next step healing up and out of your space. You don't have to do anything else. You can just sit back and watch Divinity remove that being. Now, if you find that the being doesn't move all that easily, you might have a cluster of pictures that that being is anchored in on, or there might be a strong agreement that you need to look at. This is a good, it's a good first exercise to try to address a being and to move it out of your space. And once you've moved that being out, you want to fill yourself in with a big gold sun. And when you're all filled in, you can come on out of trance, because we're going to talk about aliens now. They don't look right in their bodies. I don't know if you've ever seen an alien in a human body, but it's very much like Men in Black. If you've ever seen the movie Men in Black, I thought that was a really good depiction of what a psychic sees when they look at people who have weird alien beings in their bodies. I was at Starbucks in Redondo Beach one day, out in front of Starbucks, and looking down the sidewalk towards Trader Joe's. And lo and behold, here comes a male body with an alien being that was twice the size of the body, and it was lumbering towards me. And I could tell that the being did not know how to run a body. A lot of times you can tell that there's a being, an alien being in somebody, because they don't know how to function in a body. And I just had a really good laugh watching this particular being try to walk in a body. The being was very large and had a weird face and everything. So clearly it had knocked out the owner of the body. I don't know permanently or not, but had pushed the owner of the body out to the point where the being was now running the body, which can happen, as I was saying earlier, if you're not paying attention to your body and watching over it. I had a client who was a very hardcore OxyContin addict, and beautiful young woman who got hooked on Oxy for female problems, cysts. And she was hooked very, very badly. And it was just horrible because she was this originally, and I knew her before she got the prescriptions. She was bright, beautiful, intelligent, and full of life. And in about 2 years, she became like a zombie. And I told her that I could help her if she wanted the help. Well, she finally came to me and asked me to give her a healing. Well, let me tell you what I saw, because I took a serpent out of her spine that was coiled all the way up the head, all the way down the spine. And it looked somewhat like a, kind of like a dragon, I guess. And it peeled off like click, 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 click. And as it came off, I said to myself, I know she's going to quit now. And sure enough, it took her a year, but she quit. And it was the hugest, most courageous thing she'd done. And I was so excited. But I knew when I saw that beam come out that she was going to be good. So that's another one of my alien stories. Oh, I have another one. I used to teach at different institutes before I started my own schools. And one of the institutes I taught at, the director there really didn't have a very good handle on grounding it. And the institute was actually being run by alien beings, not the director. And this became very uncomfortable for me because the energy wasn't being set right. And I eventually had to leave that place because the energy was being set by aliens. So I was aware that there were alien beings, and I came home and I did my grounding, and I ran my energy, and I ran my energy, and I ran my energy for 4 hours. And after 4 hours, finally, the picture of the being came up in front of me, clear as day. And it was like an alien being. It had a wide face with googly eyes and a thin, skinny neck. And it was as clear as day. And the minute I saw it and said hello to it, it shot out of my aura on a diagonal, and it went, and it scared the heck out of me. But it left. So I knew that I got it out. That was the being that was trying to control me in that space. There you have it. So that's another way to get a being out, is to run your energy and find where the being is anchored into you. Clear it and get the being out. All right, we're going to kind of segue right into, I did want to say, if you ever find yourself in a situation like that where you have a being in your space and you don't know how to get it out, please, by all means, contact me. I'd be happy to help you with that, set up a session, and we can clear that being. As I was saying, there's really only a small percentage of beings that are fussy and need a little bit more than a hello. And there are other techniques to take out beings that we're going to be talking about in a little bit that are called destroy beings. All right. We're going to move on to drug and alcohol beings. And I want to tell you there's a being, a control being, at the top of every game. So at the top of the alcohol game, there is a being, an entity that runs that game. At the top of the tobacco game, there is a tobacco being that runs that game. At the top of the cocaine game, there is a cocaine being that runs that game. And there are many beings underneath the main being. And when you're using drugs or alcohol, those control beings can come in and start programming you to do things that you normally would not do. For instance, like start drinking at 8 a.m. in the morning. You might not normally do that unless you have an alcohol being in your space. You might start your day with bong hits, and that might not be your normal go-to unless you have a marijuana being in your space. And you might numb yourself with painkillers if you can't get out of pain on your own and you don't know how to clear that energy. I used to teach drug and alcohol classes to release the energy of the beings. And I have to say, those were the most intense classes I've ever taught in my life. And I can remember teaching one in El Segundo, and there were probably about 12 or 15, somewhere around that, students in that class. And they all came because they wanted to clear their alcohol and drug energy and move the beings out. And so right at the part where we were moving the beings out, there was such a tsunami of energy from beings, it backed me up against the wall. It actually flattened me against the wall. It just rolled out of everybody, and it was this huge amount of energy. It really took my breath away. And I used to, a lot of times I'd leave those classes with a headache because there'd be so many beings in the class, I couldn't blow my pictures fast enough. So I haven't done one of those classes in a long time, but those are really a great way to clear energy. They're kind of intense. What I would do is I would hold them for about 4 sessions, but what I would find is that the people could hardly make it to the 4th session because it was just so intense trying to clear that energy on their own. Another example of drug and alcohol beings, I don't know if you'd remember this, but it happened maybe 5-7 years ago, maybe longer. There was a street drug called bath salts, and that's what it was called on the street. And there was a level of entities that came through the bath salts. And I was looking at these beings, and they were nothing but destroy energy. And the reason I remember this is because the people who would use bath salts, it would completely eat away their skin, and yet they would do it. And there were even cases of people taking bath salts, and there was one of a man trying to chew off another person's face. So they were like cannibalistic beings. I know I'm being bizarre, but this was in the papers. So you could actually Google this, bath salts as a street drug. And so this was kind of a phenomenon that was going on for a brief period. As you can imagine, those beings did not last too long on the planet, because we have an agreement here that we do not here go along with cannibals. So those beings were backed off, and you don't see that drug anymore going around, or I don't hear of it anymore. So I'm going to go into, I have one more drug and alcohol story. And at the risk of my own reputation, I will tell this story. I had a styling meeting with a friend of mine who was going to style me for my business. And it was in Mandalay Bay. So I went to her hotel room. And for the story, I'm going to call her Desi. And Desi wanted to style me give me a new image. And the funny thing was that she wanted to do it in a Honey West style. So any of you that are my age or older, you might remember who Honey West was. She was sort of like a 1960s Deborah Harry. That's kind of what she looked like. And she wore black leather jackets, and not at all really what I had in mind for my business. But anyway, we were playing around with the styles and everything, and we were having fun, enjoying some very good vodka. And as the evening went on, my friend said to me that there was a painting on the wall that was starting to talk to her. She wanted me to give the painting a reading. And the evening just started to go downhill from there. The evening culminated with my friend on all fours on the floor of the hotel room, barking and growling, with a being in her space that was so embedded that it took me quite a while to get the being out of her. And that was a very interesting experience. I kept saying, oh, come on now, Desi, you can get out of this. But actually, she had a very difficult time, and it took me grounding her and really working my tools. I had to get back in my body from all the vodka and really find my space in order to help her move that being out. So that's a great example of what can happen when you use drugs and alcohol and you go too far away from your body. All right. Let's see. Now I'm going to talk about destroy beings real quickly. I had so many things I wanted to talk about, but I'm running out of time. Destroy beings, we have some destroy beings that we are aware of, and we call them snakes and spiders. They're low-level beings that come from another place, a universe that got destroyed, and they only have one vibration, and that is destroy. So there's nothing redeemable about these particular beings, and we have a technique to get rid of them called erasures. These beings will hold you in pain pictures and keep you stuck in pain, because that's what they vibrate at, is destroy, and the energy vibration is pain. So these are really nasty beings. Sometimes they're really hard to get out. Again, if you find that you have destroy beings and you're having difficulty, please contact me, and I'd be more than happy to help you with that. Let's see. I wanted to just mention religious beings, But I was never required to attend church when I was young. And I really thank my parents for that every day, because it allowed me to view the world through spiritual eyes as opposed to a religion. And so I didn't grow up with religious beings around me, other than my grandmother was Catholic. And so in her bedroom, she had some really funky things on the wall. There were crosses with Christ bleeding, and I didn't understand that as a kid. I just did not understand why that needed to be in the bedroom. But I didn't have too much of an exposure to religious beings. However, if you go to the Vatican and you get the opportunity to, that's a really great place to look at the energy of religious beings, because those beings have been there for thousands of years. And the energy when you go into the Vatican is very, very heavy and low. In fact, I found the entire Vatican very heavy and low, with the exception of the Sistine Chapel. And then also there's a chapel where the Pietà is, and that is the sculpture of Mother Mary holding Jesus. And that's a special chapel that you can go into. And although the being is not invasive, the being of Mother Mary is very present in that chapel, and it is the most beautiful energy. It's just blue grace, and it is the most wonderful vibration. So that's where I found my peace of mind when I went to the Vatican, was in the chapel with the Pietà. There are also family control beings, and that actually could be an entire class. Family control beings will try to maintain family agreements or try to hold members in matching pictures in order to maintain a certain energy vibration that usually one family member controls, and one family member uses the control beings. And like I said, that could be an entire class that we could talk about. And let's see, last but not least, never least, is sex beings. I cannot do this class without talking to you a little bit about sex beings. Let's talk porn. Porn is all about sex beings. And yes, there are beings that run the game of sex. And there are low-level sex beings, and then there are high-level sex beings. And when you get into addictions and porn, this is definitely a space, a transmedium space, where another being has come in and started to program the person. And oftentimes that needs or requires a deprogramming to get the being out. And it really means going in and finding where that original agreement was made, and when it was made, and clearing out that agreement. And there also has to be an interest on the part of the client to actually want to change that behavior. As long as the client is not interested in changing that behavior, if a being is in their space, it's going to be pretty hard to get them to change. All right. And the same is true with sex addicts. So whether it's porn or sex addiction, it's those games are run by beings. And let's see. One last thing about beings is home invasions. You may have experienced in your lifetime a point where you felt an entity in your home. And that's very possible. I usually find many entities when I go do a house healing. And I wanted to bring that up because I do house healings, and Christy Clark and I both do them together. We do them remotely, or we also, sometimes if they're local, we can come in person, but we do them remotely. And if you have an issue with a being in your house or strange things happening, by all means, please feel free to call us Ghostbusters. We will come and gladly clean your house out for you. All right, I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover tonight. Let's go ahead and make separations, and then I just have a couple of new announcements for April. So let's close our eyes and start to make separations. If you have any questions in my space or comments, please go ahead and call your energy back. And if I have my energy in your space, I will call my energy back as well. If you have your energy in your fellow student space that are on this call, again, collect up your energy, bring it into a gold sun, and fill yourself in with it. Even when we're doing classes on Zoom or in this webinar format, you still can actually get your energy in somebody else's space. So that's why I'm having you do separations. All right, let's go ahead and put the energy of tonight's class, how to recognize when a being invades your space and what to do about it. You put all of that energy into a bubble or a rose and explode it. Bring in a big gold sun, and may it be with the blessing of divinity that this class tonight be complete. Amen. Wow. That's a growth period. All right. I'm going to give you some of my April events. My announcement will be coming out very, very shortly. I have a Female Fridays coming up, and we're going to be doing a meditation clearing shame and embarrassment. So that's going to be a great healing. I have a women's intuition class this month, and it's on protection. And I'm going to be teaching 4 tools for protection, and 2 of which I don't think you know about: electric blue and body of glass. Body of glass is an amazing energy tool, and hardly anybody teaches it anymore. It was taught by Louis Bostwick at the Berkeley Psychic Institute, which is where I learned it and who I learned it from. And I would really like to teach that technique to you. It's come in handy for me a couple of times in my life, and it's a really great tool. So if you are interested in that, that is the Women's Intuition class. And if you are a soul support member, you get those women's intuition classes at a discount, as well as any class at a discount. If you're interested in learning more about the soul support membership, please by all means contact me. You get 2 free healings a month, and usually another class. This coming up in April, there are going to be 2 healings and a seek and you will find, where you can ask me your questions and I will give you answers in a healing format. All right, I have another class that I'm going to be teaching called The Third Eye. Yay! We're going to learn all about clairvoyance, and I'm going to teach you some great exercises to develop your clairvoyance. And in the sanctuary, we'll be receiving a chakra healing and a mobility healing in April. So that's what's coming up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next month. For those of you that are in the Soul Support Sanctuary, we have a healing coming up next week, and that's on peace of mind. Thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoy your comments. I appreciate you coming to listen, and I look forward to seeing you again. I got my eyes on you. Good night.